Welcome, young investors. Today we're going to go over the last step in the 5 steps to financial freedom. And I'm James Fletcher, founder of Young Investor Society. And I want to start off today with a story. And it's a story that's personal to me, and it's about my grandmother. My grandma was not wealthy in her life. Her and her husband lived a very simple life. Her husband passed away when my grandpa was 71 years old. But my grandma followed the steps of these 5 steps to financial freedom. She saved, they earned money, they lived within their means, they were able to invest their money, and they were able to avoid the common mistakes. And because of that, my grandma was able to help pay for my college. And when she passed away, she left money to all of her grandkids, which we then used to help buy a house. I will be forever grateful for my grandmother because she followed the steps to financial freedom, and she was able to stay diligent throughout her life and be generous with those that came after her. I hope that paints a small picture of why these steps are important. It's not just for us, but it's for those that will come after us. And today's step is to avoid the common mistakes. So today the objectives is to understanding how not to lose money, and we're also going to take at the end of this course to write a commitment letter to help future members of Young Investor Society. Okay, so let's begin. First, let's start off by remembering the 4 steps that came before it to financial freedom. So the first step is to earn money. To invest money, we need to have money to earn. So we talked about finding the right career. The second step to financial freedom is to save money. The third step is to create a financial plan. The fourth step is to learn how to invest the money and harness the power of compounding. And the fifth step, which we'll learn today, is to avoid the common mistakes, or as we call it, the don't be stupid list. Okay, so what are the common mistakes? If you were to think about in your life, so think about either family members or stories you've read about, what are some of the mistakes that people make with their money? Think about that for a second. In your life, what are some of the mistakes that you've seen other people make? We've seen many mistakes, and it could be as much as taking on too much debt, on gambling, on losing it all in the stock market, on falling for scams. We narrowed it down to Young Investor Society to 6 common financial mistakes, and we call this the stupid list. And we want everyone to be aware so we don't fall into these traps. So mistake number 1 is spending too much. So this goes without saying. Remember to live within your means and not spend more money than you have. The second mistake, and this goes along with it, is to go into debt. Money can be your great servant if you harness the power of interest and compounding, but it can be your master if you go into debt and have that interest work against you. So avoid debt when at all possible. The third mistake is falling for scams. If it seems too good to be true, it probably is. And so those get-rich-quick schemes or double your money in a year, we need to be very, very wary of and don't fall for the scams. The fourth mistake that we fall into is to gamble. And obviously this includes going to casinos and gambling money away, which tends to lose you money. But this also applies to trying to time the stock market and trying to achieve more returns than you should. So we would argue that trying to day trade or trying to time the stock market, you're gambling, and that sets you up for failure. So in fact, if you are out of the stock market for the 10 best performing days of the year, on average of the past 100 years, your potential gains are wiped out for that year. And the same thing goes with years. If you miss the big years, you are wiped out of the gains, which means you just need to stay in the market and not try and go in and out of the market. The fifth mistake that we make is maybe a bit counterintuitive, but it's being too cautious. We have something every year, year in and year out, which is inflation. And so as inflation rises, the value of your money goes down. And so if you earn 1% interest for a year, but inflation was 3%, you actually lost 2% in real money. And so being too cautious, putting all your money under a mattress, is actually a mistake that will cost you real dollars in the long run. The sixth one is obvious but is critical, is trying to cheat. And we would say being dishonest or being unethical. There are so many stories of people who are successful, who have become wealthy, but then got greedy and tried to cheat the system and wound up in jail or wound up losing all of their money. So there are plenty of ways to make money and build wealth honestly, but trying to cheat and being dishonest is a sure formula for losing your money. So now let's turn to some videos, and we're going to watch what Warren Buffett and Mark Cuban talk to us about avoiding the mistakes.
One of the things that happened in the aftermath of the financial crisis was that many individuals looked at their own financial houses and wanted to get them put in order. What's your best advice for somebody looking at their personal One of the things that happened in the aftermath of the financial crisis was that many individuals looked at their own financial houses and wanted to get them put in order. What's your best advice for somebody looking at their personal financial picture and wanting to put their house in order?
Well, you never want to owe money you can't pay. I'm basically against debt. I mean, I think the average individual will live a lot happier life if they avoid. They certainly ought to avoid credit card debt. I mean, there's no reason in the world to pay 18% for money. I can't make money paying 18% for money. So why should people up and down the street, do that? So avoid debt. If you have savings, and it's a good idea to have them if you can have, just buy index funds and just buy them every month. And don't listen to financial advisors like me. Don't read financial pages. I mean, you don't need to do it. I mean, if you buy a farm, you don't get a weather forecast every morning. You don't get a quote on the farm every morning. You look at the farm itself. You say, is this farm going to produce so many bushels an acre of corn or soybeans? And is that satisfactory in relation to what I pay? If you buy a piece of American industry and you get a cross section, you're going to do well over 10 or 20 or 30 years. But you're not going to do it if you try and dance in and out every day. The Dow Jones average started the 20th century at 66. It ended at 11,400. You'd say, how could you lose money during a period like that? A lot of people did. Yep. Because they tried to dance in and out. But American business has done fine for investors over a long period of time, just like American farms have done fine for people. American apartment houses have done well for people over a long period of time. You can't dance in and out of them.
We all have to understand personally and individually where we get our best return on our money. And so what I would tell you is investing in stocks is not the first place you should invest your money. Number one is pay off your debt, right? Why do you pay off your debt first? Because you're paying a credit card company 18%. It's hard to get an 18% return on your money, so pay off your debt first. So one, pay off your debt. Number two, save some money, because the challenge in investing a lot of times is life doesn't match up to your returns, right? So you may have the best investment in the world and find yourself having to sell that investment because you have to pay for school, right? Or you have to fix your car, or whatever it may be. And the stock happens to be down. This is a down week on Wall Street, and so you have to sell to match up life. So always have some savings first. Once you get those savings in place, then take some amount and feel free to go for it, right? But you have to understand that hierarchy.
Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed those videos. That interview we did with Mark Cuban was a really fun interview to interview the shark himself. But you can find out his advice is to save and to be smart with our money. And Warren Buffett, the greatest investor of all time, is wise about being safe, being conservative with our money, and avoiding these common mistakes. And so now we'll turn the time over to you for a handout. These, you'll go through some of the celebrities, some people you know, some people you may not know, but these are some of the traps that they fell into that caused them to lose their wealth. And so try to identify the cases of who you think made these mistakes, and then we'll come back and regroup. Thanks. Welcome back, young investors. I hope you enjoyed that activity. So let's go over the answers. The answer to story number 1 was E, Martha Stewart. And Martha Stewart was guilty of insider trading and actually went to jail for it. Number 2 is D, Mike Tyson. And Mike Tyson and his Siberian tigers. Number 3 was G, MC Hammer, the musical artist. Number 4 was President of the United States, F, Ulysses S. Grant. Number 5, the famous Ponzi scheme was C, Bernie Madoff. Number 6 was B, Elvis Presley. Number 7 was A, Allen Iverson, the basketball player. Number 8 was the baseball player I, Lenny Dykstra. Number 9 was J, Terrell Owens. And number 10 was H, Michael Jackson and his billions of dollars, spending like a billionaire, but earning like a millionaire. So I hope these are scary, but also poignant examples of famous people that earn lots of money, but found ways to squander it away. And it's a good reminder to all of us to be careful when we're building wealth to avoid the common mistakes. So the next thing we'd like to do is one of our favorite parts of Young Investors Society. And what we hear back from our students is this exercise is perhaps one of the most memorable and life-changing times during their period of Young Investors Society. And that is to create a commitment letter. So we have gone through during this unit the 5 steps to financial freedom. And now we would like to challenge you to write a personal commitment letter to yourself. And what is a commitment letter? So start with this. In 30 years from now, what do I want to be? Where do I want my life to be? And what impact on the world do I want to have? How do I expect to achieve my goals? What are the lessons learned during this activity that made me feel confident that I can achieve these goals? And finally, end with a commitment. I want you to know that I am committed to making this and beginning now, and I know that I can achieve it. We would challenge you to write this commitment letter out and hand it to someone. Hand it to a parent, hand it to a sibling, hand it to a friend, so that they see the commitment that you've made to yourself. Also, if you're interested, send your commitment to Young Investors Society, and we will send your commitment letter down to future generations of young investors. And these commitment letters, keep a copy and hold yourself to it. What we found is that the students that can create these commitment letters early are more likely to succeed in college, after college, because they have a clear vision of what they're working towards. The last challenge we would like to make for you is to remember to sign up for the $1 a day challenge. You have gone through the lessons of personal finance, and hopefully now you've opened a bank account, you've opened an investment account, you've started to save, you have an idea on what career you want to go into, and there is free money waiting for you at Young Investors Society. So we match a good percentage of students that write the scholarship essay and send in their $1 a day challenge essay for their free money match. And so check out $1 a day challenge at YIS.org and get your free money match today. So I hope you enjoyed this lesson. Young investors, we believe in you. We know that you'll be wealthy. And remember that when you build this wealth, when you follow the rules, remember to give back. Remember that earning money, earning wealth is about much more than just numbers in a bank account. It's about the impact that you can have on your life, on your family's life, and on the lives of those around you. Hi, young investors. Let's do the frequently asked questions during this lesson. Okay, so the first one that we often get is, what are the ways to avoid these common mistakes? So that's a great question. So we talked in previous units about automation. So having a bank account that is automatically saving and that is automatically paying off your credit card, online banking, Mint.com, which tracks your financial expenses. Ways to automate it and make it systematic are ways to take your personal bias and your personal decisions out of some of the mistakes that you'll make. Another way to avoid common mistakes, let's say if someone approaches you with a Ponzi scheme or a get-rich-quick scheme, is to seek counsel of others around you in your group. So don't make a large financial decision without consulting your spouse if you're married, or your parents, or your grandparents, or others that you respect. So when you're making large financial decisions, make sure you vet this decision with those in your network that you trust. Money is often a taboo topic, and for a lot of reasons, we are uncomfortable and we don't like to talk about money. But the reality is, when we put it in a corner, in a dark corner, and don't talk about our finances, that increases the tendency to make large financial mistakes. So be honest, communicate, seek advice from others is a great way to avoid these common mistakes. Another question that we received is, what if I have a natural tendency to be very risk averse? How do I conquer that tendency? So it's a very good question. So one of our common mistakes was, our counterintuitive one, is to not be too cautious, that we do need to take risks to get returns in the market. And so one of the key things of any financial planner, if you walk into a financial planner's office, is he will get to know you. So he'll get to know your risk tolerance. He'll get to know what your financial goals are, what your long-term goals are, what your short-term expenses needs are, and then how much risk or volatility are you able to tolerate and still make wise, rational decisions. And so everyone has different risk tolerances. If you happen to be on the spectrum of being very risk averse, you may want to systematically put into your savings mechanisms so that you invest in the stock market and are able to take risks and get returns. I would say the same thing is true for those who are natural, tend to make more risky decisions. Put systematically into your investment decisions ways that you're more conservative. Maybe it's through taking bond or fixed income exposure. And so find ways to bring your natural risk tolerance back down to a level that's more rational and will be better for you in the long run. The last question that we received was, James, is the dollar a day challenge really real? It sounds too good to be true. Can you really pay me $365 if I start investing? The reality is we can. So Young Investor Society is a nonprofit organization, and we have many generous donors and sponsors, and they are most interested in helping you as young investors develop the habits that will last a lifetime. And so it's one thing to learn about personal finance in a classroom or here. It's another thing to actually open a bank account, start to invest, and create the habits that will last a lifetime. And so we are so interested in helping you create these habits that you can receive the Dollar a Day Challenge. Find out more information on YIS.org under the Dollar a Day Challenge. There is an essay that you write, and we sponsor a good percentage of the students that submit the essay and start to invest $1 per day. So good luck in your investing. I hope these questions and answers helped you in your search for financial freedom.